PGT does not test for all genetic disorders. Syndromes, autism, for example, development problems or birth defects. It also does not guarantee, I have already mentioned, the health of the baby, implantation, clinical pregnancy, or a live birth. So sometimes I have patients that ask me if is there any genetic test for autism? No, a genetic test cannot diagnose or detect autism. We have some panels for that, but it is also detected some genetic defects around 15% of our patients. But we should point that this condition is multifactorial. For example, that's because it is there is interaction between genes, there is interaction between some environmental factors that may underlie this condition of autism. Roughly 100%, 100 genes have clear ties to autism, but there is no single gene that leads to autism every time it's mutated. So if we should know what proportion of autistic people find answers from genetic tests, very few. Very few patients find answers from genetic tests. So karyotyping finds a relative mutation in 3% of autistic people. And if we should know a test that is more molecular, that is called the microarray analysis, just in 10%. So sequencing the 3 genes associated with syndromes could identify autism mutation at least in 15% of autistic people. So the rest percent will not find any answer from genetic tests. So it is important that combining all the methods with sequencing the exome, for example, that is a very huge test of the genome, could yield results in some people. But we should know that the likelihood of finding a non-genetic test variant increases if the autistic person also has intellectual disability, seizures, or some facial feature. So that is important in the genetic consultant. But in most cases, this genetic test turns up to nothing. So a negative result, I explained to the parents, does not mean the person does not have a mutation that can cause autism. The test in question might not pick up that particular mutation. Or perhaps the mutation does not yet have a known connection to autism. So if they go, I explained if they undergo a IVF cycle and then a PGT, this is for screening just aneuploidies. If we want to perform a PGT as implementation genetic test for a single gene mutation, we can detect in this test autism. Just very few cases, as I've already mentioned, we can pick up that mutation. But many of the genes linked to autism today were not associated with the condition 5 years ago. This information, the data, is so variable. So most genetic testing facilities reanalyze results once a year based on the latest findings. So that is important for us to point out. So to sum up, roughly 15% of our patients, we can pick up a mutation. So it can be detected by an IVF? No, because in these cases, a PGT-A test is just for aneuploidies, all be blocked, but it doesn't analyze the single gene. If we want to analyze the single gene, we can go through a PGT-A test, that is a pre-implantation genetic test for monogenic disease, but autism is a multifactorial condition. So in case we pick out that gene and we go to that cycle and rule out that that is the gene that will lead to a baby to autism, we should know that there are some mutations that are called, which are called de novo mutations. So this test does not exonerate the baby to have a de novo mutation, that is a mutation that pops up for the first time and could have that condition. So I hope that in the future we can analyze these multifactorial conditions, polygenic conditions that are due to environment, that are to genetics, and we could give more results in these IVF treatments, and we can have healthy babies in the future. I think that here the point is to continue performing research. So probably in few years my answer could change, but I hope that all the people that suffers from this condition go to your genetic counselor to have the information, to have the genetic assessment, and to give reassuring information.